I haven't done a serious talky video for a little while, so I thought I would today. This is on the subject of gender identity and how it's been in the news a bit lately. And this all comes from a link a friend shared on Facebook. Now, gender identity is something I've been educating myself a bit on in the last couple of years, doing research and meeting people with different experiences to me. Because I'm a straight white male. In terms of sexuality and making your way in the world, no one has it easier than me. Everything in Western civilization is geared towards telling me I'm making the right choices. I do the right thing. All right, maybe the whips and chains and creative use of condiments is a little outside the vanilla range, but by and large, I get told what I do is normal. Now, I'll actually admit one of my longest held prejudices was towards people who were transgender or had a not completely traditional view of their gender identity, especially people who went so far as to have gender reassignment surgery. I have to admit that I spent a long time thinking, yeah, maybe honestly they're just a bit messed up. Maybe they're being a bit self-indulgent. But once you do a bit of research, you find out that when it comes to sex, sexuality, gender, and personal identity, the idea of there being a definable binary black-white male-female existence, it simply isn't true. Even if you limit yourself to purely physical characteristics, it isn't just one or the other. Some people are born with different ways their body works. And then there's the situations where people lose body parts because of illness or accident. And quite simply, if you think you can define someone's identity because of the external genital or internal organ identifiers, then you're straight up wrong. And let's not even get started on the non-physical definers of identity, of the emotional or the psychological aspects of yourself that define who you are on the spectrum of gender identity. No, really, let's not go too far down that road. I'm not an expert, and I'd be bound to say something really quite stupid if I kept talking about it. I've tried in more recent times to just take the approach, look, if someone wants to express their own identity in the way they choose, if they're not actively hurting someone else, then respect the way that person sees themselves and who they are. As I said at the start, this is all coming from a link a friend shared, and it was an article titled, "Should Trans People Be Forced to Identify Their Birth Gender Before They Have Sex with Someone?" Now, this was all written from an activist point of view, and I'm really cautious with this type of thing. I've mentioned it multiple times. If you see something that fits exactly into an ideology, particularly if it's your ideology, your first impulse is to go, yeah, right on. I urge you to be a little bit careful. Spend a bit more time reading, thinking it through, and getting a bigger picture of what's happening. So with this article, obviously written by a trans rights activist, I was taking it with a bit of a grain of salt. Let's find out more before automatically agreeing with the points this person's making. Now, the writer of the article is quite a good writer. They managed to make some really humorous points about a very serious court case. Namely, there are some things that you can keep to yourself and some things you really better not. And it can all revolve around whether or not you have a dick or used to have one, or how you perceive the importance of that. It's clear you can lie about the size of your dick, if someone else has a claim on your dick, if your dick has managed to pick up some diseases along the way, but in England at least, you had better not lie about if and when you have ever had a dick in your life, or you can face criminal prosecution. The case revolves around a 17-year-old who was born with the name Justine McNally, but he prefers to identify as male by the name of Scott. Now, if you want to see a different way of reporting the same one, this article links to the reporting from the Huffington Post. And if you want to see bias in action, the HuffPost article was headlined, "Justine McNally, dressed up as a boy to take the virginity of 16-year-old girl." Everything about that is emotive and biased. It's clear, even though they're only 1 year apart in age, they're 17 and 16 at the time of the incident, it's clear that McNally is the evil, lying perpetrator of an evil deed. And there was a pure 16-year-old schoolgirl virgin. It's just the complete lack of objectivity there is a little disturbing to me. You're really not going to learn a lot about the case from the Huffington Post article because it's very shallow, very biased and very inflammatory. In short, it just suggests that out of the blue, a 17-year-old dressed up as a boy to seduce a 16-year-old girlfriend. In truth, these two had known each other since they were 12 and 13, respectively. They had had an internet communication and all that time, but the older of the two waited until the younger was 16, so any physical sexual contact was legal. That really doesn't strike me as a horrible, creepy predator. I think, you know, if you're going to be at all objective, there's something else going on here. I honestly think the worst way you can portray this case is a teenager made an ill-advised choice to hide something about themselves because they were arguably confused. And seriously, if we're going to jail every teenager who makes an ill-advised choice because of romantic or sexual attraction to someone, you're going to have some really overcrowded jails. The creepiest thing about the Huffington Post article is it's not just biased and hateful and prejudiced, it's factually wrong. They say in there that McNally had sex with a strap-on with the 16-year-old 3 times. That simply is not true. That is not a matter of record. McNally was initially charged with that because, hey, guess what happened? A parent found that this supposed boy had a bra and a sex toy in their bag, and then it came out, well, it's not strictly speaking from the mum's point of view a boy here, it's someone with female genitalia who happens to have a dildo. But McNally point blank denied the sexual activity involved the dildo, and that charge was never pursued. HuffPo just goes out and goes, oh, strap-on sex 3 times, and that simply isn't true. Although McNally was convicted of sexual conduct involving penetration, the penetration, it was tongue and fingers. The dildo was never part of the charge. For people whose sexuality or gender identity makes them marginalised, it can be really hard to know when to come out to other people and explain the full situation to them. I mean, it can be worse than difficult. It can be life-threatening. This case was so close to the movie Boys Don't Cry, it actually freaked me out a bit. Gay and trans people are murdered all the time, and something as offensive as the gay panic defense can actually work. People who violently, maliciously murder someone just because they're gay or trans can essentially get away with it if they end up in a sufficiently biased court. So it's no black and white issue. Look, for me personally, my hard and fast rule is, when do you tell someone the whole truth about your situation? It's before you engage in any intimate sexual contact. But like I said before, seriously, a teenager fucking up and making what I honestly believe was an ill-advised choice, if you're gonna hold that against them for the whole life, and McNally, as it stands, will be listed as a child sex offender for life, i.e. Scott's life is fucking over. You can't get a job, you can't interact with people, that will ruin your life. Anyone who disagrees with that and thinks this is a deserved outcome, honestly, I think you're a fucking moron, and, you know, I really want nothing to do with you. It's easy for me to talk about, hey, just be honest, be open. Like I said, straight white male, what's the worst that could happen? Look, I'm 47 and I can easily pass for under 35. Hell, I know 30-year-olds who look older than me. If I went out on the dating scene and lied about my age to attract younger women who didn't want to go out with a 47-year-old, hey, I might score, I might get lucky with someone, but when the truth come out, I'm never going to have anything lasting. But if all I wanted was to have sex with people, that would probably work. And as the law goes, the worst that would happen, I don't know, I'd get slapped or something. I'm not going to face criminal charges. Like I said, I can lie about my age. I can lie about how rich I am. I can lie about the fact that I'm in a relationship, so I'm never going to get serious with this person. And I can't be prosecuted. But apparently, if you have a much more complicated than the everyday gender to deal with that you may find difficult to explain, you can actually face criminal charges. At the end of the day, I think this is a backwards decision by the court in so many ways. To take someone who's already really marginalised and marginalise them even further by making their very existence a criminal offence, and to have media just reporting this in a hideously biased and unfair manner, it's just going to make people who are already scared and confused in an even worse situation. Because what this says, hey, guess what? If you don't fit into this binary pattern, if you're actually confused about who you are, or you're worried about how other people will perceive who you are, according to the courts, you are shit out of luck.